We are living through a hallucination. If you ask the average person on the street, or even the average economist, what economic system we live in today, they will answer without hesitation, capitalism. They will tell you that we live in a market economy where businesses compete. Prices are set by supply and demand, and profit is the reward for innovation. They are describing a world that no longer exists. They are describing a memory. The reality is that capitalism, the system of markets and profits that defined the last 300 years, died quietly over a decade ago. It was not killed by a socialist revolution. It was not killed by a fascist takeover. It was killed by its own greatest invention, the cloud. What has replaced it is something far more ancient, yet terrifyingly modern. We have retrogressed. We have moved from a society of markets to a society of fiefdoms. We have moved from a society of profit to a society of rent. We have moved from capitalism to techno-feudalism. To understand this shift, you have to look past the gleaming logos of Silicon Valley and see the structure underneath. In the Middle Ages, under feudalism, the fundamental reality was that a few people owned the land and everyone else worked on that land. The lord owned the estate. The serf worked the soil. The serf did not own the wheat he grew. He was allowed to keep a small portion of it to survive, but the surplus went to the lord as rent. The serf was not a free agent in a market. He was bound to the land. Today, the land is not soil. The land is the cloud. The land is the digital infrastructure, the servers, the data cables, the platforms, and the algorithms, owned by a tiny minority of cloud lords: Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta, and Apple. These are not companies in the traditional capitalist sense. They are sovereign estates. When a merchant sells goods on Amazon, they are not operating in a free market. They are operating on Jeff Bezos' private fiefdom. They pay rent to be there. They pay for the warehouse space. They pay for the advertising to be seen. And they pay a percentage of every sale. The cloud lord sets the rules. The cloud lord sees the data. If the merchant becomes too successful, the lord can copy the product, rig the algorithm, and bankrupt the merchant overnight. This is not competition. This is tribute. The death of capitalism officially began in 2008. When the global financial system collapsed, central banks around the world made a decision that changed history. They printed trillions of dollars and poured it into the financial sector. This decoupled the financial world from the real world. Money became free for the massive corporations, but expensive for the small business. This allowed the big tech firms to acquire a monopoly on the future. They used this free money to build the cloud capital, the massive server farms and AI clusters that now run the world economy. Think about your own life. How much of your existence is rented? You do not own your music. You rent it from Spotify. You do not own your movies. You rent them from Netflix. You do not own your software. You pay a monthly subscription to Microsoft or Adobe. Even the physical objects in your life are turning into services. You can buy a John Deere tractor, but the software that runs it belongs to the company. If you try to fix it yourself, you are breaking the law. You are a tenant on your own property. This is the core of techno-feudalism, the systematic elimination of ownership for the many, and the extreme concentration of ownership for the few. The mantra is, "You will own nothing and be happy," is not a conspiracy theory. It is the structural definition of the new economic era. But it gets darker. In the old feudalism, the serf at least knew he was a serf. He knew he was working for the lord. In techno-feudalism, the serf is tricked into believing he is a customer. But you are not the customer. You are the product, and you are the laborer. Every time you scroll through Instagram, every time you search on Google, every time you post a video on TikTok, you are performing unpaid labor. You are creating the content that keeps the platform alive. You are generating the data that trains their artificial intelligence. You are the digital serf, tilling the soil of the algorithm, creating billions of dollars of value for the cloud lords, and receiving $0 in return. Your reward is connection. Your reward is entertainment. But the surplus value of your time is being extracted and sent up the chain to the new aristocracy. This extraction is powered by the algorithm. In the old days, the lord had a sheriff to enforce his will. Today, the lord has an algorithm. The algorithm determines what you see, what you buy, and what you think. It is the ultimate form of social control because it is invisible. When you open your news feed, you think you are seeing the world. You are not. You are seeing a curated reality designed to maximize your engagement, which usually means maximizing your anger or your fear. The algorithm is the overseer of the digital plantation, nudging the serfs to work harder, scroll longer, and click more. The implications of this are profound. In capitalism, if a company makes a bad product, you stop buying it, and the company fails. The market corrects the error. In techno-feudalism, the feedback loop is broken. If you don't like Google, where do you go? If you get banned from YouTube, do you build your own video hosting infrastructure? You can't. The barriers to entry are too high. The cloud lords have captured the infrastructure of commerce itself. They are not players in the game. They are the board that the game is played on. This means they have the power to deplatform anyone they choose. In the Middle Ages, the worst punishment was excommunication, being cut off from the church and the community. Today, the worst punishment is deplatforming. If you are removed from the cloud, you cease to exist economically and socially. You become a digital ghost. This power over the public square makes the tech CEOs more powerful than any king or president in history. We must also look at where the money is going. In capitalism, profits were often reinvested into production, building new factories, hiring more workers. In techno-feudalism, the wealth is extracted and parked in passive assets. It goes into buying up the housing market, turning a generation of young people into permanent renters. It goes into buying up farmland. It goes into stock buybacks. It is a rentier economy. A rentier is someone who makes money just by having money, not by doing anything productive. The techno-feudal system is designed to reward the rentier and punish the worker. If you work for a wage, you're fighting against inflation and automation. If you own the assets, you are riding the elevator up. This is why the inequality gap is widening so violently. It is not just greed. It is structural. We are seeing the separation of the human species into two distinct castes. The techno-lords, who live in a borderless world of private jets, multiple passports, and digital assets, and the techno-serfs, who are geo-fenced, tracked, monitored, and dependent on the system for their survival. The middle class, which was the hallmark of the capitalist era, is being hollowed out. A middle class cannot exist in feudalism. In feudalism, you are either in the castle or you're in the field. There is no in-between. The transition to techno-feudalism is not just economic, it is psychological. To maintain a feudal system, you need a population that is docile, distracted, and dependent. This is where the dopamine loop comes in. The cloud lords have hired the best neuroscientists in the world to hack the human brain. They have turned the smartphone into a Skinner box, a device that dispenses intermittent rewards to condition behavior. Every notification, every like, every match on a dating app is a hit of dopamine that keeps the serf tethered to the device. This is the modern version of the bread and circuses of Rome. As long as the population is entertained, as long as they are fighting with each other in the comment sections, they will not look up and see the walls of the prison being built around them. And the walls are getting higher. Let us talk about the gig economy. Companies like Uber, DoorDash, and TaskRabbit are hailed as the future of work. They are sold as freedom. Be your own boss. Set your own hours. But look closer. This is the ultimate feudalization of labor. The driver owns the car, the capital, pays for the gas, the expense, and takes all the risk of an accident. The platform owns nothing but the code, yet the platform takes a massive cut of every transaction. The driver is not an employee with rights and benefits. They are a serf with a car. They are managed not by a human boss who they can negotiate with, but by an algorithm that punishes them if their rating drops below 4.8 stars. It is algorithmic management. It is a return to piecework, stripping away a century of labor rights in the blink of an eye, but the ultimate mechanism of control is yet to be fully deployed. It is the central bank digital currency, CBDC. We discussed this in our previous documentary, but in the context of techno-feudalism, the CBDC is the company scrip. In the old coal mining towns of the 19th century, the mining company would pay workers in scrip, fake money that could only be spent at the company store. This ensured that the workers could never save real money and leave. They were debt slaves. A programmable CBDC is the digital version of company scrip. It is money that the state or the cloud lord can control. They can dictate where you spend it, when you spend it, and what you spend it on. If the empire decides that you have eaten too much meat this month, or traveled too far, or donated to the wrong political cause, your wallet can be restricted. This is the dream of the feudal lord, total control over the economic life of the peasant. Now, consider the role of artificial intelligence. In the capitalist narrative, we are told that AI will create a world of abundance where humans are free to pursue their passions. In the techno-feudal reality, AI is the replacement for the serf. The cloud lords are currently using the data harvested from us to train the machines that will replace us. The artists, the writers, the coders, the accountants, their skills are being absorbed into the cloud. Once the AI is sophisticated enough, the human serf becomes obsolete. This creates a terrifying question. What happens to a feudal society when the lords no longer need the serfs for labor? This brings us to the concept of universal basic income, UBI. Many people see UBI as a socialist utopia, free money for everyone. But through the lens of techno-feudalism, UBI is something very different. It is the allowance given to the serf so they can continue to pay their rent. If automation takes all the jobs, who will buy the products? The system needs consumers. So the state, funded by the cloud lords, will print money and hand it to the people. The people will then immediately hand that money back to Amazon, Google, and Netflix to pay for their subsistence and entertainment. It is a closed loop. The money leaves the printer, touches the serf's hand for a second, and returns to the lord. It creates a population that is completely dependent on the allowance. A population that relies on the state for its daily bread is a population that can never rebel. It is the final nail in the coffin of human liberty. We must also look at the geopolitical dimension. The world is splitting into two competing techno-feudal blocks, the American bloc and the Chinese bloc. In the American version, the cloud lords, big tech, are stronger than the state. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos operate with a level of autonomy that rivals nations. They have their own space programs, their own currencies, their own foreign policies. The US government is increasingly becoming a client of these companies, relying on them for defense, intelligence, and infrastructure. In the Chinese version, the state is the ultimate lord. The Chinese Communist Party realized the threat of the tech giants and cracked down on them. Jack Ma disappeared for months. The party asserted dominance. In China, the super app, WeChat, controls everything: messaging, banking, travel, health status. It is a unified digital panopticon. These are the two futures facing humanity: corporate techno-feudalism, where the companies own the government, or state techno-feudalism, where the government owns the companies. Both are prisons. One has better entertainment, the other has stricter guards. Let's look at the physical reality of this digital world. The cloud is not floating in the sky. It is underwater cables, massive data centers, and rare earth minerals. This is where the energy war intersects with techno-feudalism. To run the AI that manages the world, you need massive amounts of electricity. The cloud lords are currently buying up nuclear power plants and energy grids. They know that in the future, compute, processing power, will be the most valuable resource, and compute requires energy. We are heading toward a world where the tech giants consume more energy than entire countries. If there is an energy shortage, who gets the power? The hospital in your town, or the data center training the next version of ChatGPT? In a feudal system, the lord's castle is always heated even if the village freezes. The education system is also being feudalized. For decades, the university degree was the ticket to the middle class. It was the way you acquired human capital. Today, the university is a debt trap. Students graduate with mortgage-sized loans and degrees that are becoming irrelevant due to AI. They enter the workforce with a negative net worth. They are indentured servants before they even start their first job. Meanwhile, the real knowledge, the proprietary code, the high-level financial strategies, is kept secret within the walls of the corporations. The ladder has been pulled up. Even the concept of truth has been feudalized. In the past, we had a shared reality. Today, the algorithm feeds each person a different reality based on their profile. This fractures society into warring tribes. When people cannot agree on basic facts, they cannot organize. If they cannot organize, they cannot threaten the power of the lords. Divide and conquer is the oldest strategy in the book, and social media is the most efficient divide and conquer machine ever invented. We are fighting a culture war while they are fighting a class war. We are arguing about pronouns and statues while they are buying up the housing supply and the farmland. We are distracted by the spectacle while they rob the vault. The picture I have painted is bleak. It is a world of digital serfdom, surveillance, and stagnation. But understanding the trap is the first step to escaping it. The techno-feudal system has a weakness. Its weakness is that it relies entirely on centralization. It relies on everyone being on the same platform, using the same money, and trusting the same intermediaries. If you remove your consent, if you exit the platform, the power of the Lord evaporates. So, how do we revolt against a system that is everywhere? We do not fight it with pitchforks. We fight it with code. We fight it with parallel systems. The antidote to techno-feudalism is decentralization. This is why the establishment hates Bitcoin and true cryptocurrencies. Not the scams, but the protocols. Bitcoin is the only asset in the world that is not a liability of someone else. It is the only money that cannot be censored, frozen, or debased by a central authority. In a feudal world, holding your own keys is the ultimate act of rebellion. It is digital sovereignty. If you hold your wealth in the legacy banking system, you are a tenant. The bank can lock you out. If you hold it in Bitcoin, you are a sovereign. No one can touch it without your permission. This is why they call it rat poison for the banks. It is poison to the feudal model. But it goes beyond money. We need data sovereignty. We need to support decentralized social media protocols where you own your audience and your content. Systems like Nostr or Blue Sky, where the graph, your connections, belongs to you, not to the platform. If you leave Twitter X, you should be able to take your followers with you. That is the difference between a digital city, where you are free, and a digital prison, where you are trapped. We also need physical sovereignty. The techno-feudal world wants you isolated in a pod, ordering food delivery dependent on the grid. To break free, you need to reconnect with the physical world. Learn how to fix things. Learn how to grow food. Build a local community of people you can trust face to face. The more you can provide for yourself, the less leverage the system has over you. If you rely on the cloud for everything, you are vulnerable. If you have a network of real human relationships and real skills, you are anti-fragile. The transition to techno-feudalism is not inevitable. It is a project being pushed by a dying elite who are terrified of losing control. They are trying to freeze the world in place because they are on top. But technology is wild and wants to be free. The same tools they use to monitor us, encryption, AI, the internet, can be used to liberate us. AI can be used to monitor citizens, or it can be used by citizens to analyze government corruption. Encryption can be used by terrorists, or it can be used by whistleblowers and journalists. The battle of the 21st century is not left versus right. It is centralized versus decentralized. It is the pyramid versus the network. You have a choice to make. You can accept the terms of service. You can click agree and slide comfortably into the pod. You can accept the UBI, wear the VR headset, and eat the bugs. It will be easy. It will be safe. You will be a well-fed pet of the state. Or you can choose the hard path. You can choose to take responsibility for your own life. You can choose to learn the technical skills to protect your privacy. You can choose to invest in assets that you actually control. You can choose to build parallel institutions that serve humanity rather than enslave it. The empire cycles are turning. We are leaving the cycle of industrial capitalism and entering the cycle of digital feudalism. But cycles can be broken. We are the first generation in history that has the tools to opt out of the empire without leaving our homes. We have the technology to build a new system that makes the old one obsolete. They want you to believe that resistance is futile. They want you to believe that the cloud lords are all powerful gods. They are not. They are just men behind a curtain pulling levers. And the curtain is made of code. If we change the code, we change the world. The feudalism of the Middle Ages lasted for 1,000 years because the serfs could not read and they had no weapons. Today we can all read, and we all have a supercomputer in our pocket. We have the weapons. The question is, do we have the will to use them? Do not be a serf. Be a sovereign. The age of techno-feudalism has begun, but the resistance begins now. Welcome to the fight for the future of the human soul. You have now seen the code behind the curtain. The mainstream media will keep telling you that everything is normal. But if you have watched this far, you know the truth. The system isn't breaking, it's mutating. We are building a community here of the prepared, not the scared. If you want to stay ahead of the transition, subscribe to Empire Cycles and turn on the notification bell. The next phase of the cycle is approaching fast. You cannot afford to miss the warning. If this analysis gave you a new perspective, like this video. It tells the algorithm that this information needs to be seen by more people. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Is techno-feudalism already here, or do we still have time to stop it? I will be reading your answers. This is Empire Cycles. We don't predict the future, we prepare for it. I'll see you in the next one.